Yo, what's up guys? Today's build is going to be the next installment in my post-apocalyptic build series. If y'all remember from a previous video that I made where the old gold panhandler was attacked by a desert creature, he was from a town called Killmoore. Well, in this video, I'm going to be making that town. Alright, let's get started, y'all. To start, I'm going to make a bridge overpass for the city to be built on. I like the idea because there is only two directions to protect from raiders, and it gives the town height advantage. I'd like to think they learned that trick from Battle Royale games back before shit hit the fan. For the road part of the bridge, I used XPS foam board for the concrete barriers, and styrene strips for a little extra detail on the barriers. After that dries, we can get started on the steel support beams on the bottom of the road. I know what you're thinking. Balsa wood strips for steel supports? That wouldn't even support a small child, much less a whole ass bridge. Well, when I paint it, it'll look like steel and work just fine. So to start, I'll cut thin balsa wood strips and slightly less thin balsa wood strips to make a little balsa wood strip sandwich for the support beams. To glue these together, I used hot glue to tack down the strips, then used PVA glue to glue them together. I did this because the PVA glue dries thinner, then after it dried I peeled off the hot glue, which was super satisfying. I'll finish off this unedible sandwich. Damn, I'm hungry. Then we'll move on to making these support columns for the bridge. Started the support columns with two thick pieces of polystyrene to act as, well, support for the columns. While I do that, you can enjoy this shot of my disgusting finger I hurt doing this build. I would say be careful, but I'm an idiot, so y'all probably won't have the same problem. I hot glued this in place because I was tired of waiting for the PVA glue to dry, and after that's done, we'll get to work on the actual columns themselves. For the columns, I used balsa wood sticks, stacked them until I liked the thickness, then glued one stick on each side for the curves I'm going to make. The curved sections were made from balsa wood strips, then I glued them at an angle. Also, don't worry about the cracks, we'll cover them up later. Do that one more time off camera, so I have two, then glue them into place, and I'll move on to painting and weathering the bridge. I started with a base coat of black paint mixed with Mod Podge to seal everything, and we can work our way up from there. After, I'm going to follow up with the light gray for the steel beams. I chose this because I wanted it to look like the beams were painted and not just straight metal. Now that that is done, I'll move on to the texture paints. For this, I used an AK Interactive's concrete texture paint and an asphalt texture paint for the road itself. Okay, done there. Let's tape this build up and get ready for some lines. Paint some lines for the road, you know. For the lines, I did a couple coats of yellow. Now looking back, I made the lines a little too wide because they do look just a little funny, but no worries, now I know for next time. I'll put the bridge to the side and get to work on the buildings for this build. I started with printing all the parts for the buildings, then used super glue to fix the pieces I broke while peeling them off the build plate. Then we'll glue everything together. While I do that, we can get into the backstory for this diorama. In this world, a zombie outbreak took out mass civilization, spiraling the world into a dystopian hellhole. The survivors went into hiding with little hope of making it out of this apocalyptic disaster. But luckily, small flesh-eating bugs would be their saving grace. Since their flesh was rotting over years and years, these bugs feasted on the zombies' flesh, slowly withering them down to bones, solving this initial problem. But seeing as the population had drastically been reduced and lots of infrastructure was gone, crazy how I can barely say simple words, life only got a little bit better. After a long few years, the zombies were gone and only came around if you didn't burn recently dead bodies. With a little time and trial and error, people figured out how to solve this problem as well. This was 50 years ago, and since then, life has slowly gotten better and civilization was able to start rebuilding. And that brings us to our small town here. After years of scavenging supplies, townspeople of Killmoore were able to build a safe and respectable town. To paint the buildings, I kept it super simple. First, I googled some pictures of shipping containers to get some ideas for the colors of the containers. If you're ever stuck on picking colors for your builds, remember, Google is your best friend. After picking the colors, I slapped on the base colors. And I just realized I said colors way too many times. But we'll keep it in, why not? Now the townfolk are more concerned about raiders and keeping the town safe than cleaning, so we will make them nice and dirty. Wait, we'll make the buildings nice and dirty. To do that, we'll use a little blackwash, and then once the buildings are nice and dirty, we can go on to blackwashing the bridge as well. Once the blackwash dies, we can move on to gluing the buildings to the bridge itself. I used a fast drying super glue for fast drying and super light glue. Before I glued the buildings down, I made sure to place them just so they look like they're in a good spot. Doing this helps make sure we don't make too many stupid mistakes, which is pretty often because it is me we are talking about here. So I only had room to glue down half the buildings. I was left thinking what I was going to do with the rest. I was thinking about putting them on the base level, but I think that defeats the purpose of the safety the bridge provides. So I came up with the idea of making like a lower level platform. I think the idea that the townspeople cut steel beams from further up the bridge to build this platform fit the like haphazard, scrapped together vibe of this town. Instead of steel, I used balsa wood just for ease of cutting. Maybe we'll use steel next time. I'll super glue the pieces together, which will probably hold together better than my life. Then I'll base coat it in a black paint and Mod Podge off camera. Once I'm done there, I'll make a barrier to protect the kids from falling off a bridge, then prime those off camera as well. I'm going to prime the platform the same way I did the steel beams, so instead of repeating myself and having to listen to my voice, you can enjoy some music for a while. Now that we're done painting and gluing the buildings down, we'll pull this platform onto the bridge like a pair of skinny jeans in 2008. I was as careful as possible and still broke it and had to fix it anyway, so should have been a little rougher, huh? Since this is a post-apocalyptic wasteland and not a magic kingdom with floating platform, motherfucker. Since this is a, I'm gonna freak out. Can't stop messing up. Since this is a post-apocalyptic wasteland and not a magic kingdom with floating magic platforms, I'll make some support beams to hold up this non-magic platform. For this, I cut balsa wood strips and glued them to balsa wood strips of a slightly different size to make a steel beam. Then you guessed it, I painted it just like the other steel pieces in this build. Now moving on to the favorite parts of making dioramas, and probably the thing I'm the best at, which isn't saying much, adding the texture paste and vegetation. I'll start with AK Interactive's Desert Sand texture paste, then follow it up with an AK Interactive's Desert Sand to add some nice texture to the texture paste. Make sure to do this before the paste dries so it acts as like an adhesive. Well, there I go making mistakes again, nothing new. Before I put the sand down, I use my airbrush with no paint in it, just to blow the texture paste around to add a nice texture. You can also blow it with your mouth, whatever floats your boat, I guess, right? Alright, before we move on to placing all the grass tufts, I'm gonna paint some cactuses? I don't know why in my mind that sounded like a question. Alright, we'll move on. We'll paint the cactuses and some other plants I printed on my resin printer. I'll start by gluing them to some bases just to make the painting easier. Then I'll move on to base coating all the plants with my airbrush. I won't give the specific colors I use because it really doesn't matter for this. I googled pictures of the plants that I'm painting and then I just picked the closest colors I had on hand. Once the base goes dry, I'll dry brush the plants with any off-white just to add some depth, and then we'll call them good. Now I'll paint the leaves green on these plants, dry brush them with the same color as the other plants, and we'll move on to oh my god, I am messing up so much in this video. And we'll move on to planting the vegetation. Almost messed up again. So for the grass, shrubs, and plants, remember the more you use, the better the end result will be. I make sure to use a lot of different sizes of grass tufts and lots of different colors. Since this is a desert scene, I used mostly browns and just a few greens to kind of give just a little bit of color. For the cactus and other plants, it'll be the same thing, the more the better. So don't be afraid to slap them anywhere you feel that needs it. Just like every other build, the final step will be painting the sides black with the black 4.0, and we can move on to the beauty shots. Thank you to everybody who watched the video. It really means a lot, and I'd really appreciate it if y'all liked, commented, and subscribed. It really helps out the channel. Have a good one, y'all.